Hello everyone, Mr. Stevens here with a lesson in the beginning of our unit on right angle triangles. Most of what we're going to be looking at is trigonometry, but we're going to spend some time reviewing Pythagoras' theorem before we move on to that. You guys should remember Pythagoras' theorem, c squared equals a squared plus b squared. We're going to quickly go through a couple of examples of calculating the hypotenuse. That is c squared, and the shorter sides, in other words, A or B. Doesn't really matter which side is A or which side is B, but those are the shorter sides of the triangle. Remember, in a right angle triangle that looks something like this, the hypotenuse is always the longest side, and then you have A and B here on the shorter sides. And the reason really we're learning all of this stuff is so that we can apply it in practical situations. And that's going to be the main thing that I want us to focus on in this video. But you'll have a lot of examples to practice on all three things. So what we're going to do quickly is I'm going to show you a couple of examples of finding the hypotenuse, and I'm going to move through these very quickly. In the next example we do, I'll go through it a bit slower. The first thing we're going to do in all cases is write down the formula, and then we're going to fill in the numbers for A and B. Now, the most important thing when working with Pythagoras is this is not the answer. This is c squared, and to get the answer, we need to use the square root. The answer in this case for c is 10 centimeters. Same thing over here, except this one is a little bit more complicated. You're going to need a calculator for this one. We fill in our numbers. We put that into a calculator. And we remember that this is not the answer. This is c squared. We take the square root, and that gives us c. Our question tells us to round to 2 decimal places, so that's what I'm going to do. 41.94 meters. Okay, I'm going to step through this one a little bit more slowly. I want you guys to all pick up your pens and write this one down in your books. It might be a good idea to include the triangle. First step, write down Pythagoras' theorem. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. Step number 2, we replace A and B with the numbers. It doesn't matter which number is A, and it doesn't matter which number is B, as long as we put the two numbers there. That now goes into our calculator, 5 squared plus 12 squared. That's not the final answer, that's c squared. We need to take the square root, and then that gives us our final answer, which is 13. Now, when we want to find one of the shorter sides, when we want to find A or B, the process is very similar. We just have to add in one extra step. This time, one of the numbers we know is actually C. So we need to do some algebra here to get A squared by itself. We've subtracted the 3 squared over to the other side. Now, in future, when I write this line, I'm going to write it like this, with the A squared over there. I just wanted to do it once this way for you guys to see how it works. Now, when we do it, we're going to skip this line. Now, from here, it's the same question. 5 squared minus 3 squared goes into our calculator. That tells us that A squared is 16. We don't want to know A squared, we want to know A. So we take the square root, and A is 4 centimeters. Let me run through it one more time for you here. C is 2.5. I'm trying to find A. B is 1.5. We subtract the 1.5 squared over to the other side, so we get A squared by itself. We put that into our calculator, and that tells us that A squared is 4. We take the square root of both sides, and the answer we're looking for is 2. All right. I want you guys now to all pick up your pens and do this one with me. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. Let's fill in what we've got. C is 12 squared. We're told that the side over here is x, so I'm going to change that to an x squared plus 5 squared. Now we're going to take away 5 squared. Now I want to talk about this for a second. We could have put the 5 here and the x here, but I'm going to suggest you always do it this way. Always put the number you don't know as A and put the number you know as B. It just means that this looks a little bit more clean. Because if you ended up with this line, we don't have that plus in front of the 5 squared, so we can get a little confused here and forget that we have to take 5 squared away from both sides. I think it's just much easier to set it out if we put the number here in the second place. All right, let's carry on. 12 squared minus 5 squared. Get your calculator out, put all that in. The answer is 119, but that's not the final answer because we need to take the square root to give us that. We get a number 10.9087. A question asks for 1 decimal place, so the answer is 10.9 millimeters. Alright, that's the basics of how to solve Pythagoras questions. What I'm going to get you to do now is practice 2 that have a slightly extra element, and that is we need to draw a diagram first. Because we're given a situation in words and we need to turn it into a triangle. So I'm going to do that for you here on this one. We have 2 joggers starting from a point and traveling 8 kilometers to the north. Then they stop and they turn and travel 5 kilometers to the west. And if they want to come back to their starting point here, how far do they have to walk? I'm going to call that side C. Now you guys can have a go at answering this one using Pythagoras. If you pause the video, I'm going to get the solution done for you. When you unpause, it'll be here for you to check your answer. All right, and here is the answer. I just want to draw your attention to the question asking you for the nearest tenth of a kilometer. That means 1 decimal place. So the answer is 9.4. So that's the one type of practical situation you might be asked about where you have to just draw a triangle from some information. The other type of question you might get is something like this, where you already have a diagram, but you just have to find exactly where the triangle is on the diagram, and I'm going to help you with that here as well. This line here down the bottom that's 15 meters is also the distance here of this line. And you need to recognize that this distance, 29 meters, is not the side of the triangle. That's only 20 meters because we have 9 meters down here. And now you need to find the length of the rope here from the tops of the two flagpoles using Pythagoras. I'll let you guys have a go at that from here completely on your own. Pause the video, please, and when you come back, I'll have the solution for you. All right, and there you go. The answer is 25 meters. So now that we've done that, you should have an idea how to find the hypotenuse. Remember, that's when we find C. The shorter sides, that's when we're finding A by taking away B from both sides. And then we've got practical situations where we have to draw the diagram for ourselves before we can answer the question. So now you guys are going to jump on Island, and there are going to be some questions there for you to practice. Go ahead and get started on those. Get in touch with your teacher if you have any questions about any of that. Thank you.